It's another session of Malcontented Minutes, but it's a little bit different tonight. If you haven't been following along during the daytime, I've been working the day shift and the afternoon shift and the morning shift. And so we actually weren't planning to do Malcontented Minutes tonight. Our editorial board was actually leaning towards, dude, self-care, shouldn't do a show. And I'm like, there's the police shooting, there's the snowstorm, there's the warming center, and then there's this other story that has been brought to the table to us. And again, I don't want to steal the thunder. I'm really proud of this. And I think the people who love this channel are going to be proud and excited to hear kind of what's happened around this particular story. But what I did say is, I ain't doing my 5 stories, okay? It's too much. And the funny thing is, Jennifer, what did they cut out today? Like 1:30? They were like, yeah, our time. They were like 1:30. Day's done. But I was cooked because I had been up pretty early with everything else. Otherwise, I would have been, yeah, I could do that. Tomorrow's going to be amazing because it's going to be...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know.
It's going to be a circus tomorrow. Anyway, Jennifer is bringing the 5 stories tonight. So we're not doing 10, we're doing 5. The other thing is, I have no idea what they are. Seriously. That is why there's no poll. We're not going to have a vote for Pick Your Story tonight because we are trying to keep the show short so I can get some rest. The other thing, Dr. and Mrs. Malcontent got her second COVID vaccination shot yesterday, and she's a sad, sick puppy. She's really feeling the shot, so she needs some care. So with that said, Jennifer, are you ready?
I am ready.
All right, here we go. The timer's rolling. Story number 1.
You're going to know a few of these, and a few of them are going to be surprised. But first things first, the UK coronavirus variant detected at the University of Washington. I happened to get this message before it went public because I am technically an employee of the University of Washington. So what happened is this new UK variant that is so contagious, and they're still finding more and more stuff out about every day, was first detected in the student population last month. So we get this. They're doing, additional studies, gave out additional tips about how to stop the spread of coronavirus. And quite frankly, I can tell you from somebody who actually works at the journal, a history journal on campus, and goes there pretty regularly, the student body is not super great about staying masked up. So after announcing this and letting us all know that students had been exposed, both infected with and exposed to this new variant. They gave instructions about wearing multi-layering masks, signing up for coronavirus testing, and not traveling during spring break. But as I said, the student body that I've seen thus far that's been on campus has not been super great about masking up. Plus, with all of the outbreaks in the fraternities earlier in the year, I think this could be entirely problematic for the people that are actually on campus.
I can actually unpack this one. I'm familiar with this story. I feel like you threw me a softball for the first one, but that's okay. I'll take it. Something that I read is that the UK strain that the scientists, researchers, CDC believes that this will become the dominant strain in the United States within about 2 months. It is about 50% more contagious than the strain that is available today. And this probably ties into you should be wearing not just a bandana, but a tightly fitted mask, as well as maybe a cloth overlay on that, which is what I've been doing since the word go. So Jennifer, there we go. We're ready for story number 2.
All right, this is both my BIPOC and great news, good feels story. And this is a memorial to civil rights icon John Lewis is going to replace a Confederate monument in Georgia. Like, take that, MTG. So this is a tribute to the congressman and activist, and it will stand actually in DeKalb County Square, once occupied by a 30-foot Confederate obelisk. So, of course, we all know John Lewis, major civil rights icon, Congress. So what happened is on June 20th, 2020, a judge ordered the removal of this Confederate statue from DeKalb Square. It was dedicated to Confederate soldiers. But after the George Floyd protests, a judge ordered it taken down. And so they passed a law recently, or that they were going to go ahead and commemorate John Lewis. There's an entire task force dedicated to this, but I think this is excellent news. And it just goes to show that you can take down a Confederate statue and people aren't going to forget the history tied to it. And you can also implement new kinds of histories that integrate that, build on it, and take it in new and better directions.
So there was very sad news in the testimony today in relation to John Lewis out of the impeachment hearing. The insurrectionists that came in and stormed the Capitol, among the things they did, they destroyed a picture or portrait of John Lewis. It is just gone. There was a couple of broken fragments of it. So apparently white nationalism is alive and well in this country. I think that this is fantastic. I think this is the story. I've said this many times. The United States is one of only 2 countries on the planet that venerates people that fought a civil war against their own government and lost. The only other country that does it is Japan. So I'm one happy for this. Jennifer, I'm ready for story number 3. Bring it.
Okay, this one might be a little bit of an ouch for you, but it's kind of an ouch for me too, and I'll explain why. So this last week, a professor, because we're all teaching remotely via Zoom, realizes at the end of a 2-hour Zoom lecture that he was on mute. Does that sound familiar, David? I mean, not 2 hours, but just a short amount of time. So he's a mathematics university professor, and he discovered the hard way that, quote, silence isn't always golden. He delivers the Zoom lecture for 2 hours. He's at the National University of Singapore. And he soon realized that none of his students heard a word because his mic had been muted the entire time. Wayne calls for questions, and the 20 students who actually stayed connected to the online class, because you'll happen to notice that the students kind of the number drops down throughout an online class, got nothing. I mean, he asked nothing, and they're like, we can't finish the class because we haven't heard a thing. So my own embarrassing experience with this is I usually record my lectures over the top of a PowerPoint via Zoom beforehand, and then upload them so they can listen to them whenever they want. I actually went through an entire 1.5-hour lecture and realized at the end when I went to play it back that I had not turned my mic on. So it's just basically an 1.5 hours of me flipping through a PowerPoint slide. So this kind of stuff happens, but unlike, the mods and me who will tell you that you're not being heard, he had no such luck.
Just messing with everybody. I hit the mute button before I started that segment. Yes, that one cuts a little bit to home. I have definitely have had the mute button on more than once, in particular if we have a longer segment or sometimes at the start of the show. And every now and then the fan on the computer that manages the broadcasting, it goes in because the processor is like, I'm in overdrive. And so that fan goes when we're sometimes playing videos, and I'll hit the mute button because I know it'll. And that's the one actually that'll really trip me up, because that is not a normal point for me to hit the mute button, and I'll just roll. But I will swear on my father's grave, the last 2 times we've had mute issues in here were driver issues. It was not me and the button. But yes, that one hurts.
Yeah,
all right, Jennifer, story number 4.
Really good reminder, if you're going to do live lectures on Zoom, always record them. I don't know, because might have played back on his side. I don't know. Probably not. So Biden administration today extends housing protections to the LGBTQ plus community. And so same-sex couples and transgender individuals disproportionately experiencing housing discrimination will now have access to recourse under federal law. And this is a really big deal. So the Department of Housing and Urban Development announced Thursday, today, that LGBTQ plus community are protected from housing discrimination by federal law. And they actually face more discrimination. But the department has been constrained in addressing their discrimination claims due to, quote, legal uncertainty about whether most discrimination was within HUD's reach. So Joe Biden, issued an executive order expanding the Supreme Court's June 2020 decision in Bostock Clayton County, Georgia. God, Georgia is just at the middle of everything, which found that federal protections against sex-based employment bias also cover discrimination due to one's sexual orientation or gender identity. And that addresses that uncertainty according to Thursday's release. So there is now recourse for housing discrimination for the LGBTQ plus community, which is a huge advancement and will hopefully help mitigate some of the issues this community has been dealing with.
Well, it just goes back. This is a real easy one for me to unpack. Mm-hmm. What goes on behind closed doors between consenting adults is between consenting adults. Yeah, that's the way it should be. The key word there is consenting adults. And the other thing is, what ding-a-lingy-lingy or lack of ding-a-lingy-lingy is under somebody's pant or skirt or smock or frock or whatever, or hospital gown is between them and Almighty. Not that I'm really into that. And if medical professionals need to understand in the sense that they're treating them. And that's it. The rest of it shouldn't flip and matter. And if you're hung up on it, that's your problem. So this is good news. Anyway, that's it. Jennifer, story number 5.
Also, what does that have to do with your ability to pay your rent? Okay. Ho-ho, Washington. We have another Washington state man charged in the insurrection at the Capitol. So this came out today. Another Washington state man been charged with several federal crimes in connection with the insurrection riot that happened in Washington, D.C. on January 6th, as members of Congress were meeting to certify Joe Biden's win as president of the United States. According to the court documents, Taylor James Jonatakis, 37 of Kingston, has been charged with many crimes, including obstruction of an official proceeding, assaulting, resisting, or impeding an officer, an act of civil disorder, entering and remaining in a restricted building, disorderly and disruptive conduct, 2 counts of violence in a restricted building, and obstructing passage in a restricted building. Whew, that's a mouthful. So he made his appearance in U.S. District Court in Tacoma on Thursday, and the Justice Department did not request his continued detention, and a judge ordered him to be released pending further hearings in D.C. He has not yet entered any pleas.
Well, it seems to me there are some cases that they're not asking for detention because they're not tied more to like the broader conspiracy. One of the things, that they express concern is that they would not be able to even charge some of these. Yeah. This dude is, if they're looking at assaulting police officers, and on some of the stories that we weren't aware of that we're hearing about now, it doesn't sound like this is somebody that picture of the police officer literally getting their eye gouged out. That was one of the, I'm getting chills just thinking about it. That was yesterday. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That was yesterday. Fox News, by the way, we're going to talk about that later tonight. Yeah, they just turned, it didn't happen. Didn't happen. We'll talk about that later. We're going to continue to hear about arrests. We're up over 200 now, and 5 Proud Boys charged with conspiracy, and that isn't once already arrested. 5 more arrested and charged with conspiracy. They're building their bigger case. Any outside observer can see that. And the question is, how deep does this run? Jennifer, thank you so much for the Fast 5. I really appreciate it. And we went fast.
Yes, we did. Too fast.
And with that, we're going to do another little pause for the cause. Okay. And then we'll go into our next segment.
Okay.
Black Coffee is a hub for communities and a hub for meeting people, making friends, and understanding.
What Black Coffee is to me is a place to actually call home, a place where Black youth will feel welcomed, where Black families will come and feel like they're at home.
What we're trying to build is more than just coffee. Community is something that we do naturally. We know who's in the community, we know what the deficits are, and we're trying to fix that. We want to bring people together.
My hope is that the phrase grounded in excellence shows up everywhere and that it becomes a movement.
I'm looking forward to hanging out at Black Coffee with my friends and feeling safe.
Black Coffee to me means opportunity for people like me and my other friends and family to come here and do homework safely and hang out and stuff like that.
That is happening. It is happening. for the day. George Floyd! And all of that medical equipment, that medical aid there, I initially kind of came in and, said, hey, we're going to have to start moving people. And then a couple other people came in and we were like,
to be held accountable for their actions. We're not going without. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace.
Can You Hear Us is our documentary about events that happened from June 1 to July 4 in Seattle. 5 weeks that will be part of this city's history for the rest of the time that Seattle exists as a country. If you're a patron, you already have access to Can You Hear Us. Can You Hear Us will have general release at the end of February. Candidly, it might stretch a couple of days into early March. I know I've been saying February. We have found, I keep finding more video, and the news cycle, right, particularly with the impeachment trial, I just have no window to continue to work and edit on that. The other thing is Black Coffee Northwest, located in Shoreline, Washington, grounded in excellence, amazing coffee. I can already see Jennifer is giggling because she knows where I'm going with this. Get the potato scone. It's like a scone and a baked potato with cheese and like an onion or chives, and it like had a baby, and it's this delicious scone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were talking about whether or not you were going to talk about it in the comments. That's why I was giggling. So if you guys had a side bet going on, whoever said yes won.
Make sure you spam those hearts, Malcontent. Spam those hearts. If you're on Periscope, Twitter, or if you're watching on Facebook, you just on the hearts. If you're on Twitch or on YouTube, there are no hearts, then you could just do a big long line of hearts, or just say, I love you mods, love you admins. I've been seeing that there's been some shit posting in the comments tonight, and I'm not surprised by that. So the mods I know are working overtime tonight. So play nice in the comments.
These are cannibalistic humanoid underground dwellers.
You're not the same. I'm an American. You're a sick asshole.